Welcome back to the Pay Points podcast where the world meets business. We come to you every week. One half of the team here, Darius Bell, along with Samson Jagoras.
What's going on? Good morning.
Good morning, man. What a wonderful day it is, man.
Amen.
Yeah. Well,
Hey, real quick question for you. Is my camera clear?
your camera's crystal.
Okay. Yours is looking like it's
A little blurry.
a little blurry.
Hmm. It's because I got these dark shadows and stuff. Let me see. See what we got going here, guys. That any better?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. A little more
I'm
crisp.
going for the ominous look.
Hmm.
Bad cop, good cop over here. I'm the dark side over here. Yeah, man. Well, dude, another week of building businesses, encouraging those of you out there doing the same. And you know, we've been jumping in as of recent, but I want to give a quick rundown of today's short but thorough show. We're going to talk another assassination attempt that you just made me aware of. And then we're going to talk Alex Hormozi. He's got 7 real tough lessons that he learned. The biggest concern for Main Street is inflation. I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on that one. The Fed's rate cutting gives the stock market what it needs and wants. Can't wait for you to dig more into that. And then we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about private innovation and public benefit by way of our own maverick Elon Musk, or he's not really our own, he's South Africa's own. Um, and then we're going to talk a bit about upping our communication. And we're going to do this through entrepreneurship, exploring entrepreneurship, leadership, but also in particular, bad marketing today. Today is about bad marketing, bad content. And for my portion of the show, and it's not going to be a hate fest, but we're going to just pick apart some things and show why I think and I predict that we are set for a major turnaround in the business world and business content all around communication. And meaning like we're going to reset. We've gone way too far off the deep end, and so I'm
All
excited
right.
to dig into that with you.
Yeah, me too. I don't know entirely what you mean, but I have a
Mm-hmm.
little suspicion.
All right, Roger that. Well, first story here.
I think this is just relevant because it impacts us. And again, a sign of the times
Yep.
where we're at. I personally in my life have not seen anything like this where you have multiple attempts
Mm-hmm.
on potential president's life, not even an actual president's life, but a potential president's life.
Wow.
This one was brought to light by actually Joe Rogan, who posted this about the Coachella rally, and they caught somebody who was going there with bad intentions. I don't know if we necessarily need to watch the video,
Yeah.
but this is the sheriff's department in Riverside County who is speaking on the entire situation. You guys can go watch it. If you're unaware, it is something that typically gets throttled and you're not going to see it floating around for too long.
What did he have to say?
He basically just said that they caught somebody who was going there with ill intentions, guns and fake IDs and fake passports, and
Wow.
there's no other reason for somebody to be going there
With artillery.
with artillery than that. And so I don't have the full details on it, but
Wow.
man, I just it is crazy to think that is where we've gotten, and that is a reasonable outcome for people.
Yeah. Dude, let me just see if I can pull up something real quick. I just want to see if they have any details on. Okay, so it looks like a guy, 49-year-old Miller, a Las Vegas resident, was taken into custody without incident and later booked at the John Benoit Detention Center for possession of a loaded firearm, possession of a high capacity magazine, and I don't think that's all though, because I saw another clip before I clicked on this that he had some significant weapons, not just a high capacity magazine.
Yeah,
And
he was loaded up, and that's what the video says is 4 minutes.
wow, he carried. Check this out. Carried a fake press pass, and VIP passes, a loaded shotgun, a handgun. Wow. That's a bit much, man. Um,
Yeah, there was no like shots fired or anything like that, but he was definitely going there with ill intent.
yeah, let me see what the sheriff has to say.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming here today. I am Chad Bianco. I'm the sheriff of Riverside County, and we are obviously here to talk about an incident that occurred yesterday at the rally that former President Trump had in Coachella. Yesterday afternoon, before former President Trump arrived to the rally, we made contact with an individual on the inner perimeter of our operation at the rally. As you can imagine, this was a very large event in regard to previous attempts on the former president's life. This was not something that we were taking lightly. We had a very detailed plan in place on how we were going to keep not only the former president safe, but had documentation that said you were going to this rally. He approached the outside perimeter, gave all indications that he belonged there, that he was that he was a participant that was allowed to get into VIP and to and a press corps, and so he was allowed through that outer perimeter. As he got to the inside perimeter, where deputies were conducting obviously a more thorough evaluation of the vehicles that were coming in, there were many irregularities that popped up. The deputy noticed that the interior of the vehicle was in quite disarray. The vehicle had an obviously fake license plate, and that prompted further investigation from our deputy into why the person was there and what he was doing. During that investigation, the deputy eventually found multiple passports with multiple names, multiple driver's license with different names. The vehicle was unregistered, and the license plate was what we in law enforcement would recognize as one that is homemade and indicative of a group of individuals that claim to be sovereign citizens. And assuming the deputy assumes that he was part of that identifying group. So during the investigation, obviously those identification documents, he will have to Secret Service and the FBI.
Well, yeah. Okay. Either way, man, not a good look. It's like you said, it's unheard of in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
And it's almost to the point of being normalized.
I think that's what's most concerning to me. Right?
Yeah, reaching that point in the media spectrum.
Why aren't people up in arms about this?
Right. Why isn't the left? Why isn't Democrats speaking out about this? Why isn't Harris speaking out about
nobody's speaking on it. They're just accepting it as not their problem, and if it happens, it happens, is what it feels like.
Well, and part of the problem, honestly, too, is even though they've come out in the past and have made statements, condemning, they'll say, condemn all forms of political violence, but then they continue with the same rhetoric that produces this type of line of thinking.
Yeah.
He's a threat to end all democracy. He's going to destroy the Constitution. He's going to become a dictator. He is Hitler 2.0. 3.0 now at this point. And they expect that nothing's going to happen. Honestly, my thought goes to not even Trump, but what's going to happen when one of these people opens fire on his supporters? Yeah. And that's going to be the real piece, because he's got his security and they got their own things, and they've been continuing to get better, I guess, because he's still here. But what's it going to take? Is it going to take someone saying, you know what, I can't get to Trump, but I can get to these MAGA folks? And so it's just, it's a bad sign. And like, to your point, no one with any significant platform or influence to deter this is speaking out.
Yeah, I guess the only person who really spoke on it is Joe Rogan in this particular case, right? So
and even him, he doesn't have the pulse of the left, right?
Yeah. So nothing really to glean or learn there, other than something we all need to be aware of, specifically as citizens, entrepreneurs of this country that we live in.
Yeah, dude, it's not a game, and it shows. I think it's showing us too just how serious we haven't been taking this realm of being a citizen to politics.
Yep. Agreed.
Like, as business owners, we've been on the sideline for a long time. Not all of us, but there's plenty of people involved. But
well, we talk about it all the time, right? Like, the sentiment has been make your money and then step out, right?
yeah, do it later
Instead
on
of-
in your
yeah,
50s and 60s.
or just step out of the rat race entirely and
Right.
don't do anything, right? Don't step up. Don't jeopardize your
True.
wealth. Don't jeopardize your business
Facts.
because you're afraid to speak on it.
That's true. Well,
So shifting gears, shifting gears off of
gears.
that, getting back to some things I think that are more relevant to us as entrepreneurs, more pragmatic. But I saw this great post. I shared it with you from Alex Hormozi on 7 lessons that he had to learn the hard way. He says, I sold my last company for $46.2 million, 7 lessons that I had to learn the hard way. The first one is nobody knows you exist. You need to advertise more. And I think you and me coming from the world of marketing couldn't agree more, right? It's like, there's never a time when you actually stop marketing. In fact, how you market changes regularly.
Not if.
Yeah. 2, be willing to repeat yourself. People need to be reminded more than they need to be taught. So that is another clue on marketing, but that's also another clue for your leadership team, for your investors, for your employees. You just have to constantly reset the vision. And about every 90 days, people get kind of shiny object syndrome, or a little fuzzy and unclear. And so that's why those quarterly cadence exists. So we need to be prepared for that. Number 3, the proof that you have from happy customers is way more convincing than any promise you can make in your marketing. Get testimonials and use them often. We talk about that a lot. When you're a brand new business starting up, the very first thing you should be doing and focusing on is building trust. And you do that by building reviews, right?
Yep.
That's constant. You're constantly getting reviews. The number of times that I've heard entrepreneurs and business owners say, oh, my business doesn't really work that way, right? I don't really need, we're business to business, or we work with commercial, so we don't really bid projects and jobs that way, is totally missing the point, right? Is it does just firm up a level of trust with every successive bid that you do with future potential buyers, investors, business partners, employees that want to work for you. I mean, literally, we got an application the other day for one of the businesses, and it's like, you guys have 300 reviews, and I read through most of them. I don't really know what is going on there, but I just want to be a part of it. Right? If you think reviews don't matter, you're fooling yourself.
Right.
Raising prices, number 4. Raising prices almost always makes you more money, but you'll hear no more often, and that is okay. Right? If you double your price, you might sell half as much, but you're still doing the same amount of revenue. Number 5, your business is never too big for you to spend time talking directly to your customers. That's a real thing too, right? You reach a certain point, you lose that level of communication and community and intimacy that you once had. So it's always important to just continually call on your customers, continually ask them questions, continually get feedback from them, open the door so that you can learn and innovate. What do they want? Market's always shifting. Number 6, before you chase something new, do 10x more of what already works. And I think that's a real truth, as well as Alex Hormozi says, he says more, better, or new. More, better, or new are the kind of the 3 frameworks that he gives. And I couldn't agree. I think oftentimes when we think we've actually maxed out, we probably haven't, right? And then number 7, growth is stressful, stagnation is stressful, and decline is stressful. Business is stressful. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't need to change anything. You need to learn to endure just win. And I love that part too, because I feel like with every successive level, you feel like, oh, shouldn't this be easier? And sure, there's a point where it gets easier. But if you stay in that place, then you're just going to stagnate. And if you're not growing, you're dying. So you're going to have to push out of that into a new level. And it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There's just no way around it. And then boom, you get to that new level. You achieve a new cruising altitude, and it gets a little bit easier. And then again, you have to make a decision, right? Do I continue to stagnate here, or do I push to the next level? Do I innovate? Do I scale? Do I optimize? What are all the ways that I can make the business better than what it is currently?
Yeah, that's really good, man. I think two really stand out to me that I want to share two thoughts on. One, number five, you're never too big to spend time talking to directly to your customer. It's funny because within, let's just say the last 10 years of business content, media, marketing, social influence, uh, you almost get what's really alluring is oh, I want to build this, I want to start this, and then I want to get some distance from this. But uh, that's a huge asset to always have a direct link to the person your business is serving.
Yeah.
Dude, today is really going to be from my seat today is really going to be all about communication. I've just been realizing some things of just the stuff we hear, what we say, how it's shaping what we think and what we think the outcomes are and the destination. And it's like, yeah, maybe you don't have to be, day in, day out with the customer, but just think about it. If you cut off that supply that you have to the customer, um, you're creating a vacuum, that can be filled with a number of different things, good people, good leadership, but it's the reason you started down this path in the first place is somebody else. And so,
And your customers will tell you what they want and what you should go build. I think
correct.
it's easy to look at the market and come up with ideas. And
Right.
obviously you need a little bit of that in order to innovate or start a company in the first place. But if you're listening to them, they're generally going to tell you what the right next move is, right? Or where your roadblocks are, right? Like, why aren't people buying this thing or doing this thing?
Correct. And yeah, and what I was gonna say with that was too that it's a tale as old as time. If you look at all of the people not all of them, but because I know all of them, but most of the ones that we venerate and put up on pedestals from decades ago, there's a common thread of like an air of humility that is always interested in that customer, and just juxtaposing that with the social media thread where it's like I get to go where I want, I get my distance, my laptop lifestyle, I got my team, I do that, and it's like that's maybe for some, but the majority of us are always we're going to be in businesses that require us to keep a lifeline on the relationship with us and the customer.
Yeah, one of the things I love about what we do is we just get to work with entrepreneurs, right? Whether
Right.
that's helping them size up debt, buy a business, size it up for sale,
Right.
get financing secured for their business. And so, man, it gives you just a real-time pulse on what's happening in the market, what are the struggles and challenges that they're going through.
Hmm.
It impacts the bottom line, right?
Yeah, it
And
do.
and what we're ultimately going to be measured on at the time we go to exit our business or sell our business as well. And so for us, a lot of why we do the podcast and the things that we talk about is because these are the things that we're hearing every single day that entrepreneurs want to talk about. Like politics is one of those things that for a number of years, business owners have said,
Taboo.
yeah, it's taboo. You just don't talk about business and politics. And it's like, until it shows up on your doorstep, until it's infiltrating your company, then all of a sudden you do care, because politics and policy go hand in hand.
Yep. And that's our generation that's really guilty of that because the previous ones were all involved. They were candidates and running for office themselves. Look at a Ross Perot or something.
Yeah.
The last thing before we switch is number three. You said this earlier, the significance of reviews, and it made me think of a bar because I'm very poetic. But you said how you're talking about people thinking reviews don't matter, but the biggest case study on reviews is social media, if you think about it, because real time, how many likes do you have? How many followers do you have? How many reshares do you have? That is a review platform in the real time,
Social proof.
Yeah, it's a review platform. Oh, this person is really about what they say they are. Their product is really what they say it is. I can tell by the number of followers or the likes and shares or reposts, depending on the platform. But that's a real time feedback loop on customer reviews, audience reviews. So
On that note, I got actually a question I want to toss out there because I get mixed opinions on it. I have I have some opinions about it, but oftentimes you're going to get people who are I would say, grifting in the comments, right?
Mhm.
And intentionally inciting some sort of negativity. And then you got people that are just downright talking out of their butts and need to be corrected. Like, how do you actually cross that bridge? Because sometimes when people are saying things that are so far out of left field, you have to step in and do something about it. You can't just let it persist.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the situation. Like if they're doing things that are actually, you see evidence of being detrimental to your business, so be it, do something about that. But I think if they're just sharing thoughts and opinions, one way I think you do it, one, you want to have such a relationship with your audience where they actually go to bat for you. If you pay, you can watch people's audiences go to bat for them when someone comes on there saying this guy's a piece of, they'll be like, dude, you clearly haven't been watching his content. Hormozi is a perfect example, the creator himself of this post. If you go through his comments, you'll see a lot of people that come to his defense. So he doesn't even, Roger that. Samson told me my kid in my background is just overwhelming the microphone. Let me see what's going on. Let me hit my bride up. I think there's a couple ways of doing it. Like if they're actually physically jeopardizing your business, like the context of it is they're impacting the local foot traffic or something like that, I think you deal with that because there's no space for that, and that's really intimate. But in the content space, I think you build such a relationship with your audience where they go to bat for you. That's one side of it, but the second side of it, I think you hit those things head on. I think a lot of the platforms today, they allow you to take the comments and I'm going to highlight this and now I'm going to speak on it, and I'm not even going to defend myself. I'm just going to show you, stand on my values and how I normally go about doing things, that you're wrong. And so I think there's a couple ways of doing it. And then the other piece is you don't even really worry about it. You're just too busy doing your own thing. Because
Yeah, I think
it's easy
I
to be
think
negative.
Yeah, 100%. I give you one example. So we just, bought an old soccer facility and we tore out the soccer field, and the amount of people in the quote unquote soccer community that were like, thanks for destroying our soccer facility. Thanks for taking away the last bit of whatever joy or whatever we had. And so I just started hitting them with, y'all seem so passionate. Why didn't you buy the building? Right? Like, nothing's stopping you from doing it. Why didn't you buy the building? Or are you just more of a passive aggressive comment on Facebook kind of guy? You know what I mean? And they don't even know how to respond to that because outside looking in, they don't even have a clue what they're even talking about. But this is part of the problem, is everybody thinks that they're entitled to some sort of opinion when they have literally done none of the work. They don't have any of the experience to speak on. This is part of the problem with politics right now. Yep. People can just say whatever they want. You don't really get anywhere by doing it, but man, that kind of sentiment really bothers me because people are so quick to point the finger.
Yeah.
And try to make it into something that it's not. It's like, we tried to keep the soccer business, but that business sucks and It doesn't make any money, which is why we got rid of it,
Well, I was about to say, that's exactly what I would turn it into. Is I'm going to stand, depending on who you are, like for you in particular, I'm going to turn it into, okay, so I'm getting a lot of comments like these, but let me take you, what this shows me is you guys don't really understand about business that much. And so I'm going to walk you through how business works. Yeah. In this case, Johnny, the soccer player, is going to be my case study, and we're going to work through how he can run in just a 5-minute video of how a business actually works. And then you can end it with, so next time you and your friends can do a better job of being marketers for the soccer league, and get some more people if you wanted to be around, or you could have bought the business yourselves and you can play soccer all day long. And when that fails, I'll come and buy it too. Right. So like, I think that's how you can do that, like being who you want to be and your positioning, but you take it. And I think people expect, so here's where I'm at. I think people expect the comeback or the back and forth, but I think what you got to do is open up the lines of communication and realize, like, these people don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. No. They're just sharing their opinions, and they're angry. And it's so easy, dude. The spirit of this age is so easy to attack and tear down. I mean, I've had to look at it over the last year. in my own conduct. It's so easy to do that.
What's crazier to me though is like if I see something and I don't necessarily agree with it or I'm bothered by it, my first reaction is to not comment or say something.
Right.
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 My first reaction is to just move along or actually make sure I understand before I speak on it. Right.
For sure.
That's not people's default state. So I think it's interesting.
Yeah, not always. And the platforms have almost conditioned us for that too, right? So
Well, yeah, I
think,
mean, negative commentary feeds the algorithm and just
right.
keeps pushing it in the faces
Right.
of people.
Right. So it's an interesting thing. And I think that's why I think we are stepping into this age of, dude, the clear communicators that communicate with an air of humility are gonna just destroy the next, I think, 5 to 10 years on so many domains, business, politics, like writing books, teaching, whatever. I just really think that that's happening, and I'll get to that in a second here. So,
On that note, you know who's a master of that in politics is Vivek Ramaswamy.
very much.
Yeah.
Very much. And you're seeing the same thing even with JD Vance. Now that he's been having the spotlight, people are like, oh, this dude actually answers questions. I may not like the answer, and I may feel like he dodged the answer, but he did it really well. And he didn't just, try to backslap me with his words. He just actually was just like, boom, boom, boom. And so,
yeah. Cool. Well, pivoting off of that, let's move into some things that affect us more on the economic side. So this was a post on X that came across from Bob Elliott, who's a great follow. He talks a lot about economics and what's going on, but he says the biggest concern for Main Street continues to be inflation, despite Jerome Powell's claim it's beat. While measured inflation is causing Wall Street to haggle for even more aggressive rate cuts, when you ask small businesses what their biggest problem is, it is still price rises.
Let's go, Bob.
Here's his thread. Small business in the U.S. are a large slice of the economy with about half of the workers employed by these companies. The monthly NFIB survey gives us a good read on the pulse of their views, with the best question being the single most important problem. And the answer, inflation, still. It shows a couple of charts here just about inflation from January 1986 to 2024. And you can see couple times that it has spiked pretty drastically, and we're pushing up there at some all-time highs. And then the chart below that is showing taxes, interest rates, sales, and labor quantity in comparison to those two things.
Dude, can I just chime in here real quick?
Yep.
This is something that fascinates me, is how little exposure most Americans have to people like this person. People who understand this stuff, and who I bet if he had in a different context, he could actually really explain this and take it beyond the like Mandarin that it appears to be for most people, because they're so in it, they live it, dude. And it's just so we've done this the last couple of weeks where I get to watch you go through some of this stuff, and I'm just like, this stuff is so important that we're not talking about it enough.
Well, this chart is cool if you look at it, right? So you got 4 different lines on one chart. You got big business,
right.
You got regulation, you have inflation, and you have insurance. So you can see inflation is the dark, thin black line. That's the one that's being highlighted with the red, showing that it is at all-time highs, basically. The dark black is insurance, showing in comparison to that it's moderate. Then you have big business, which is the thin, I guess, moderately gray, moderately black line. And then kind of in between that, you have regulation. So those would be the things that kind of what areas effectively: regulation, insurance, inflation. Those are your big cost levers, right? And so inflation is far and away the biggest one. Even when it pops down below that, it's showing you interest rates and finance, labor quality, taxes, and poor sales.
Yeah.
So far and away above all those things that are out there, inflation is still the most important one.
Right.
Which is, they don't call it a tax, but it is a tax, right?
Definitely.
And so kind of we can go through this whole post, but I don't think it's necessary. I think that if you're a business owner with real business and real employees right now, you experience this better than anybody. But the real truth is inflation is just a tax ultimately on the consumer, right? But I think the problem is you can only pass so much on to the consumer before they push back. And that's where small business owners are struggling to find that balance, is how do I keep moving my prices up? How do I keep increasing wages to support my employees while simultaneously trying to combat all of the overhead, costs and expenses that are coming down on me?
Mm-hmm. Well, he closes his last thread here. He says, while Wall Street cheers about cuts, Main Street's inflation concerns suggest kindling is still there for a reignition of inflation if conditions tighten from here or an exogenous shock occurs. Not the sort of risk that align well with the planned accommodative policy ahead.
Yep. And so that's a good segue into this next article, or not next, but an article from MarketWatch. It's an op-ed piece. It says the Fed's rate cutting gives the stock market what it needs and wants. And so typically stocks and bonds are inversely correlated. Stocks go up, bonds go down. But when bonds go down, interest rates go up. And so even though we cut the rates by 50 basis points a couple of weeks ago, we're now seeing interest rates start to climb. We're seeing bonds start to fall, and we're seeing the stock market continue to increase, which is what? It is a sign that inflation is being baked into the stock market, because historically speaking, if you have money, you would pop it into the stock market, right, to combat inflation over time, which is why historically it has a 10.5% yield annualized when you look at just like the S&P 500. And so as a small business owner, you should be preparing for 2025, more rate cuts potentially coming. And because the stock market's generally pricing that in ahead, and things to get more expensive, more costly. So how do you combat that, I think, is the question that we should all be thinking about. And this is like marketing automation, AI, technology, all the things that you can do to streamline your business today are incredibly important. It also is a great time to triple down on marketing. It's a great time to triple down on reviews, all the things that we're talking about, all the things that are going to help you create a category of one type of business so that you can compete. But if everything you do at this point is requiring you to scale by adding more people, then you're going to really struggle.
Yeah.
Not to say that you don't need people, but just to say that if you aren't optimizing for efficiency today, it ain't going to get any better.
That's good, man. I ain't got nothing to say to that. That's good. It's just the facts. Like it's like we always talk about, the best time to plant a tree, the best time to start optimizing and making your business more efficient and efficacious is now.
Yeah, there's this tendency to be like, don't rock the boat, or it's working really good right now. But that's kind of why we started off with the 7 lessons from Alex Hormozi. Like, business is hard, stagnation is hard, decline is hard. All those things are hard. The only thing that's constantly changing is the market. And so you better be constantly evolving to keep up with it. Inflation is just, unfortunately, a part of the game. So you have to play the game, and the game requires you to be thinking creatively about how to fix these problems. People are still going to be spending money, just whether or not they're spending it with you is the question.
Right. That's good, man. Dude, I mean, and two, like when you think about, I just want to talk about marketing too. Going back to even what we were just talking about a few minutes ago, we'll always hear those statements of like, spending money in a time when people aren't spending money, but which we know that helps. But even now, just your willingness to be an owner that's creating content is so huge. The lines of marketing and advertising have been, they're much more blurred than, I would say in some ways they're more blurred than they ever been. But there's still some clear distinctions. But I think for business owners, there is this open door for founder based content that is, and it doesn't have to be like everyone else. The point is, like, that's a vehicle that's a marketing vehicle that doesn't cost you any money per click or won't be inflated with working with agencies and various different things, but it's something that you can actually invest in too, and find a return. And
It's why we do this podcast, right?
yeah,
It's
it's
why
just right
we
there.
write newsletters, we write on articles, we post content, we document.
Right.
It doesn't happen fast, but it
Right.
definitely does. We have built a brand at Clearly Acquired where, hey, if you're thinking about buying or you need SBA financing, you should go talk to those guys.
Right.
And that's pretty cool. That's a byproduct of us creating the pod, talking about what impacts entrepreneurs, creating content, writing articles, sharing our story about what we're doing, building a product that supports that.
And it's only going to get deeper and better, right, as you continue to do it, and so, and all there really is time, but you're going to be spending the time anyways.
Well, I've said it on here before. Time is the great equalizer in business. Like a lot of these boomer owner businesses, the reason they're so successful is they've been at it for 20 or 30 years. They've just been in the game simply longer than you have.
Mhm.
And as a byproduct of that, when the market goes up, down, cycles through chaotic recessions, etc., the man standing at the end of that generally is the person that's going to get the business when the economy returns or renormalizes, right? So
yeah, dude, I was listening to a pod this past week with Sam Parr, his Money Wise pod, which is awesome. He had a guy on there who started a business. He's the headline today would read, "Oh, this guy's worth $3 to $5 billion." But what you don't see is that he started business in the 60s.
wow.
Right. And it's just, but he stayed in his lane and he did it his way. And this is the result of that. So, yeah. All right. Speaking of a guy who's efficient, who understands efficiency and longevity, is playing a lifelong game trying to get us to Mars, Elon Musk. So I admittedly, I don't follow what SpaceX does. I don't follow that, but I don't have to follow them to know that a rocket going into space and its booster coming back down and landing in a station is a serious thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And it got me thinking like, whoa. And so I just pulled this little I just got this clip here. I don't know if you can see this, but it's a little clip from Bloomberg, and we won't watch all minute and 50 seconds of it. I'm going to just share some thoughts after it. And here we go.
For us, how big a stride this was.
Oh, this is huge. And I remember when Elon Musk first proposed the idea of catching this booster with those mechanical arms that he calls the chopsticks, everybody thought he was crazy. But then everybody thought landing a Falcon 9 boosters on drone ships at sea was crazy. And now it happens so often we don't even think about it. But if we take a look at these pictures, I mean, that booster, it's 71 meters high. It's 9 meters wide. It's the size of a small building. One SpaceX employee called this magic. Elon Musk said it's science fiction without the fiction part. But this is the next generation after Falcon 9. It's capable of carrying so much more. 150,000 kilos per launch. That's 6 times as much as the Falcon 9. 10 million per flight. The Falcon 9 flight right now is about 67 million. So getting to orbit is going to be so much cheaper, a lot more efficient, and the whole stack will eventually be reusable.
Okay.
Crazy.
Absolutely crazy when you think about this. Again, as an outsider perspective, we're talking about space exploration, space advancement, innovation within this arena has been stagnant for so long. Mm-hmm. Mostly because it flows to the apparatus called the government. You have this man who comes in with tons of, and he gets all the attention, but there are so many talented people that are making this possible. Elon is not we know he's not he's at that point, like we talked about earlier, where you're removed, but he's still got a pulse on it, right? But he's not doing the equations and mixing the chemicals. Now he's going to be there and watch it because that's who he is. But it's so fascinating to me. I heard when I first started really embracing the path of entrepreneurship, I would hear all these stories of like, oh, the best entrepreneurs are going to solve the problems. Entrepreneurs are going to solve the problems. And that has become very particularly more clear over the last like 4 years of like, wow, it is going to be the entrepreneur. It is going to be the person, and it doesn't have to be business. You can be an entrepreneurial in some other endeavor, but it's that person that says, I'm not going to wait on this position or this person or the Fed to come solve this problem. I'm going to go do it. And because I'm going to go do it and I'm not bound to this apparatus, I'm probably going to figure out a better way to do it. That's faster, that's cheaper, that's ultimately going to be nuanced in the way that actually serves the people, or and so I'm just super impressed by, again, I don't follow SpaceX. I don't know much about space exploration, but when you talk about tons and tons of force and power and energy and materials going out, coming back, like that is just so impressive to me, man.
One of the things that I recently saw, I think this was late last night, everybody's talking about Elon and how does he constantly, if you're on his team and you say, hey, that can't be done, he goes, great, you're fired, I'm taking over. And then he goes and executes on it, right? And this is one of those examples. They're showing an interview where he's talking about SpaceX and what they're doing, and he's explaining it to this pretty smart, intelligent person who's asking him some pretty good questions, and he challenges him with a question. And midstream, as Elon's talking, explaining why he's doing what he's doing, he stops, no ego, and he says, "That's actually a great point.
Yeah,
I think why we're not doing that, right?" And he immediately shifts gears and goes, "As I realized as I was explaining it to you that we're doing it wrong. We need to do it that way."
Yeah,
that's why, right? He's unattached to how we get there, but he is obsessed with the outcome, the result. And I think that is a mark of a really successful entrepreneur. And the fact that, and to echo what you said, why the private market is so much better at solving problems than government.
Yeah. And so there was two sides of that coin too, when I was thinking about it, because you can have the private market that's doing a lot of nonsense too, which we see. But the one thing about it is, like, I guess for me, he's a very public facing figure. And when you have these public entrepreneurs, billionaires who are trying to solve big problems, I think you really need to really welcome them and watch their journey. One, because it's so inspiring, man. It's so inspiring to see someone and a group of people committed to something. I don't even fully like the idea of like being a multi-planetary species. I'm not super interested in that. I have my own convictions as to why, but I still respect that dreamer that I'm going to go after this. I want to, because we've been so boxed in and living in shadows or up to no good in the private sector. And when you have someone who's really trying to do something that's really cool and he's doing it publicly, it's like we should be getting behind this guy and cheering him on. We really should. And people like him. He's not the only one. It can be whatever your field is. The people who are trying to solve big problems, it may not seem big to you, but it is a big problem in an industry. We should cheer them on. We should say, I don't understand the problem, but I'm glad you're going for it. And here's my lane and I'm going for that. And they're probably going to cheer you on. And it's like, that's the spirit of competition. That's a competitive spirit. That's not a compromising spirit. It's just a really good thing to see people trying to do something that hasn't been done. And it inspires you when you take it with humility and not like, this is boring to me, but it's like, dang, what am I doing? What's in front of me? I can fix, It's really great. So I really appreciated that for entrepreneurs out there. Like, look, this guy's doing it, and you can do it too.
Yeah. So, you don't have to send rockets to outer space, but
yeah, you ain't got to send rockets to outer space. You might just have to figure out how to get a roof done 30 days faster than it normally takes, and you can do it. So that was one piece. So I want to switch gears here and talk about communication. I led off the show by saying I feel like we're going off the deep end, and what I meant by that was, if you look, like we talked about earlier, haters in the comments, let's just say take the haters, let's take all the creators, and people are making statements, they're big personalities, I got to build my brand. But if you turn off the feeds and look around you, you can see that like so much of that stuff isn't really the real world. And I think what we're on the cusp of through social is I think we're going to see a lot of people have to reset and begin to recalibrate how they're creating in the name of building an audience, building a brand, building a business off of social. Uh, People crave the real, and we've reached a point with the fake. Just the political season is helping this happen, by the way, um, where it's like, no, dude, give it to me straight and talk to me real like a human being. And so before we look at like some rough examples of that, I want to take two practical lessons from Chris Voss, who I know you're familiar with.
Yep.
Well, on there's a YouTube channel, Negotiating Mastery, and basically all they do is clip up his material. But I saw two this past weekend I thought were really great. I had some great feedback lessons for us as leaders and communicators in business. Negotiating Mastery: how to use yes or no questions as we look at just like the reset of communication and ways that we can level up and be more clear with our messaging, our communication, our content, because I think the time is right to be clear. So
there's a Pavlovian response to yes and no. If they say yes, they feel like they're being led into a trap.
So when you say something like, does that make sense? And they say yes, that's moving in the wrong direction.
Well, it's going to trigger that negative reaction because the person that cheated them said something to the effect of, would you like something for free? Would you like to make more money? Would you like to live in a big house on a hill? And that led them into a trap previously. The ridiculous flip side is people feel safe when they say no. When my son was a teenager, Dad, can I? No. But then looking back on it, I realized every time I said no, I would look back at him and say, okay, so now what was it that you wanted? Now I could hear more, having protected myself. And so when I engage in a negotiation with someone, I'll think of the questions that I might normally ask to elicit a yes, and I'll switch them so that I'm eliciting a no. Do you agree becomes do you disagree? And then you won't have been triggered and you'll listen to me. There's a
second one here. And the second one here, he talks about how to win any argument with kindness. So keep that in mind, what he just said, and then track with this one. All right, there we go.
He honks at me. I think I'm out of his way, but he wants to park where I am. And he drives by me and he's running his mouth as he goes by. Clearly, something has got him wound up before he ever saw me. I'm not the type to let this pass for a whole variety of reasons. So, of course, I walk right over to his car. And as he's getting out and he's glaring at me, I'm like, are you okay? He goes, yeah, of course I'm okay. You're in my way. I said, yeah, no, seriously. Are you okay? Are you okay? And he was so caught off guard by that it initially deactivated him. He said, yeah, well, I'm trying to park. You're in the way. I'm like, oh, man, I'm so sorry. That was stupid of me. Of course, we both head to the same restaurant door at the same time. So I go to hold the door for him, and he walks through. But it goes from being combative and calling me names to now he's good with accepting a gesture of goodwill for me. If you understood half the stuff that people are struggling with, you take it a lot easier on them. I'm in a park.
It's good.
Yeah, really good. And thinking from the leadership perspective, it's like going to the yes no thing. Ultimately, he's talking about making people feel protected, feel safe, and then in conflict, resolving the conflict by he's being interested in that person. And obviously he has his own desires and potential ways he could handle it, but by actually pressing in and saying, are you okay? Opening the door for the gentleman after it settles a bit, putting him in a position where he could receive goodwill from Chris. As I think about us as leaders and business owners, people leading people, working with people, it's that as it relates to this particular portion of content that we're looking at, it's like being interested in someone else versus you. Being interested in we know that without going into some of the spiritual stuff, what do we continue to see increase? It is selfishness and pride. It's self-serving everything. So what should you do to actually stand out in position and have a greater impact? Go the opposite way, swim against the grain, go against the tide. Serve people with your speech, serve people with your leadership, your strategy, your content. In a meeting, you're having a tough call with a tough situation with an employee or partner. It's like, take a step back, flip it, be more interested in them. What's going on? I just really love.
It works. I have a distinct memory. I had a customer when I was a futures broker, and he was a great customer, traded a ton. We had a great relationship. He was a gold bug. So he loved talking about gold. He sold physical gold. And one day he calls me up, man, and he is just lighting me up. You're taking me for all these fees. I don't know what you do. I mean, it was out of left field, you know? And I literally just said, hey, man, is everything okay? I don't understand, but it seems like something else is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what he tells me? To that point, he says, last night my wife told me she wanted to get a divorce. It had nothing to do with me at all, and everything to do with him. So that's invaluable wisdom that was a great reminder for me.
Yeah.
The other thing is the yes, no question. I've started to use that quite more frequently.
We actually you brought this up months ago. We were talking about this. You brought it up really quickly.
A good example on a cold call is, hey, is now a bad time? Right? Instead of saying, is now a good time?
Yeah.
Right? No, it's not a bad time. Or, yeah, you know, it is a bad time. Hey, cool, no problem. Why don't we schedule? Yep. And his other famous one is it a ridiculous idea? So, you know, you need somebody's help for something. Hey, is it a ridiculous idea if you would help me real quick? Is it a ridiculous idea if we jumped on a phone call? Is it a ridiculous idea? Because people would say, well, no, that's not a ridiculous idea. Might not be my favorite idea, but it's not a ridiculous idea.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's good.
And so, yeah, playing into the human psychology. He also says, don't ever be so dead set on what you want, you wouldn't take a better deal, which is this whole mindset of if you're stuck on what you want and they're stuck on what they want, you get nowhere.
Facts. This is a sharp contrast with what we're about to look at. And this is just my one man's personal opinion as a marketer, as a storyteller. So there's a new ad campaign going out called Time Out on Hate. I don't know if you've seen this ad recently, but I'd happened to watch a few minutes of football yesterday, and I saw this ad a couple times. And I'm going to try to pull it up here on YouTube. So let's see. I think this is it.
Time out, time out, time out.
Okay, so yes. So this is a short version of the ad. So let's check this out.
Time out, time out, time out, time out, time out.
Listen up, get tight.
This is the most important timeout I've ever called.
Things are getting out of control out there.
And we need to regroup.
Hate.
Hate is winning out there.
Not on these fields.
In our communities. On our streets. In our schools.
And we need to stop it.
So let's take this moment
to change the momentum.
I call a timeout
on hate. Together.
Together.
Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And here's why I say why. Here's why I say why. So I get it. But again, going back to what we just got done looking at with Chris Voss and communicating in such a way that's interested in that person. Well, this is an ad, and I get it. It's a different context, but that's completely ineffective. One, because you're aiming at something that's nebulous like hate. You're never going to stop someone from hating. And in fact, in making a campaign against hate, you're showing that you hate the hate. So you're hating, right? And so it's just this notion of like, let's be genuine about what we're trying to do. Like, if you're actually trying to do this, first of all, an ad campaign and a $50 million initiative, which I was going to pull up the article and go into it, is never going to get that done because there's so many nuances to the way that one would describe or embody or even be able to observe hate, that making such a blanket statement in the name of achieving an outcome is never going to get you there. If you actually want to run a Stop the Hate campaign, why don't all of you people in this commercial and all of you commissioners who take the people you oppose all the time for having different beliefs and actually have some conversations with them, actually make some content with them, actually have some town halls with them. If you actually wanted to stop the hate, you would actually go to those people instead of saying, there's hate out there and it needs to be stopped. Then go where it is and engage with it with some love and see what happens and document that. Spend some money on that. And,
yeah, it's what Chris Voss was just saying, right? Are you okay?
Yeah. It's like, instead, you want to get a celebrity that says, stop the hate, but then they hate on their post on someone else.
Because hate could go a ton of different ways. Oh, you hate me because I'm an entrepreneur. You hate me because I'm wealthy. You hate me because I'm a white man. You hate me because I'm black. You hate me because I'm Jewish. You hate me because I'm Palestinian. You hate me because I'm Muslim. It's like, that's such a futile exercise.
Yeah. And it's a waste of words. Like, it's like hate. What does that even mean? Describe it for me, because I can describe love for you, right? So like, yeah. So anyways, I thought that was a sharp contrast, and in terms of marketing, like they're spending a lot of money for this campaign, by the way. It's upwards of like $50 million in this initiative that these commissioners headed by Robert Kraft are pursuing, and it's like, you need a better strategy. Don't go to agency route. Go to human route. You know, matter of fact, go listen to more Chris Voss clips, and you'll figure out, how to get there. Okay, if you're going to do an ad campaign, I think you should do something like this, where, as we're going to look at here, if let's just say you have a product or you do have an initiative, we talked about the ways in which they could improve it, but let's just take it to a product level. If I had, in this case, razors, here's one way you would actually go about creating an effective ad campaign rather than going the dying route of continuing to grab celebrities and spend a bunch of money and run expensive TV spots. You could instead partner with a creator who embodies the values and has the audience that aligns with your product, and go to their actual channels instead of paying for, instead of media buying. And this is a great example by Nick Freitas.
The beard has to go. Daddy, it's for my wedding.
Get it over with.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, it was worth it.
Here, try this.
Hey, babe, it works.
That's great marketing.
Very much so, man.
So it was perfect about it is part of his persona is his beard.
Yep. And they mixed in real time, real wedding. Yeah. Right. So if you follow his content, you know that was coming up, his daughter's wedding, because he talked about it, and then added another second product, and not just the razor, but the beard oil. Like it was an attention getting, and cost significantly less than running a $13 million spot nationwide across whatever it is. So, and
directly tapped his audience.
Yep. But when this next portion of content, we talk about communication. I think there's this one here is zoom out and have fun with it. And so take your knowledge and zoom out and have fun with it. I feel like I showed you this one already, but it's really funny to me. It cracks me up every time I see it.
Buying the S&P 500 index and forget about all the other nonsense that's being sold to you.
So if you spent $114 on the S&P 500 when Warren Buffett was 11 years old, today you'd have $400,000. If you spent the same amount on the S&P 500 in 1850, today you'd be dead.
Classic, dude. But it's just like they clearly are talking about investing, but he took a break and just, I'm gonna make a joke about this, and I'm gonna use Warren Buffett, who is always gets clicks and eyeballs. So I thought that was just from a strategic standpoint is just a great move to do every now and then, mixing it in your content, having some fun. And then this last guy, I think he goes by Rapnamefogie. I found him on Instagram. And I'll tell you why I'm pulling him in. So as we close, so as I was saying, I think we're resetting. People are tired of the BS. People are tired of this like overinflated content, especially around business, money, personal lifestyle, personal goals. Everybody's got a hack. Everybody's an 18-year-old making $2 million. Everybody's got this, like all of this. Well, you'll never guess where I started getting his content from. If you could take a wild guess, you'll never guess, but
I know.
Well, I started getting his content shared to me by 15, 16, 17-year-olds. And as you keep that in mind as you look at his content, because I think it shows you where things are going.
much more expensive than having a child, because a dog is nothing but a liability. A child can generate a positive return on investment. When you're old and a child grows up and is working and you're retired, child will take care.
This is why I invest in acquiring 2 children every year. Personally, like to invest in the ones that will have a potentially bigger return on investment. Go on this .gov website and it gives you all the information about the highest income per ethnicity. Now, after you acquire the children, you're going to want to have them sign a contract giving you at least 22% of their profits for the rest of their life. Now, this is a system I personally came up with. You could come up with your own system, but I found like 22% of their profit for the rest of their life is a great number. I actually acquired 3 children this year. Right now, they're working in my office that's in the basement. This is how much profit we did after acquiring 2.5 children just last year. Guys, if you want to start learning how to acquire children and making a profit, click the course link in the bio and sign up as soon as possible. Peace.
A dog.
Okay, so he's on a roll here. Now, this one, let me share this. So he's on a roll here. Look at this one. So he says in his caption, even though I'm worth $1 trillion and can do essentially whatever I want with my life, I'm spending time making Instagram reels to share my extensive knowledge in sales and money mindsets to a limited number of exclusive members who are willing to pay $500 for my exclusive program course. My course will show you how I've closed $400 billion in sales in January and how you can do the same. Right? Okay, so just bear with me. Bear with me. Now, this next one here.
400 billion in January.
Okay, this next one here, he's ragging on India.
Energy drinks all day long? What? What? Well, bro, why are you drinking energy drinks all day long? If you were healthy, you wouldn't need an energy drink.
What's that? What's that in your hand, buddy? What's that in your hand, buddy? Is that a Celsius? Hey, what you got right there in your hand, buddy? What is that drink? Is that a Monster for mental clarity in the same sentence? What's that over here? What's that right here? What's that over there? What is that? What are you, sponsored by Celsius? What is that over there? Are you sponsored by Celsius? What is that over there? Or what is that over there? This guy likes to indulge in energy drinks. He's mixing it up. He's got Celsius, Monster, coffee. He's just mixing up any energy drink he could find. He's way in over his head. He doesn't know what he's saying. He's making things up. I guarantee you, if he didn't have an energy drink, if he had an energy drink, he'd say, you know why I drink energy drinks? To keep me motivated, because I like that edge. But now he did it. So he's just making things up. He's thinking, what kind of bullshit can I say to make these people think I'm smart?
So last one here, and then we'll close her down. So this last one
is 6 a.m. to noon, and I'm not crazy. You're crazy for thinking it takes 24 hours, just like some dude in a cave did 300 years ago. My second day starts at noon and goes till 6 p.m. That's day 2. And then the next day is 6 p.m. to midnight. What I've done now is I have changed and manipulated time. I now get 21 days a week. Stack that up over a month, I'm going to kick your butt.
Yeah, my day every minute is a day. So my day starts at 6 a.m., 6:01 a.m., first day. So now what I've done is I've stacked that up and manipulated over time. I've manipulated time. I'm going to kick your butt. Okay? I'm going to kick your butt, dude. Your butt's going to get kicked because I'm having a day every minute. All right? Stack that up over a week. That's thousands of days, you idiot. You're not thinking like me. You're way behind. Your day. What if every day was a second? Did you think about that? Now thousands of seconds and damn, having thousands of days. I'm kicking your butt. I'm manipulated time. Manipulated time.
My day is
okay.
The comment says, aha. So you've essentially figured out what a schedule is.
And this came by way of some teenagers that have been sharing this content with me. And so what it got me thinking, I'm like, they can see the bull crap.
Yeah.
They can see the bull crap. And I'm not dissing on these creators because I follow some of them. Like I follow Andy Ellie, I follow Ed Milet. And but when I'm thinking about where are things going, it's like it's very, very clear that we as communicators, as content creators, as entrepreneurs, as leaders have to quit the BS, have to quit the ulterior motives and trying to maneuver it and just be straight and be vulnerable and have humility and serve others. And, and you still can be as beast mode as you want, but you don't have to mix in the BS. Because this next generation of people who you're going to want to work in your company and want to impact and inspire and follow you, their BS meters are dialed in, bro. And they care a lot about social status. So if they have BS on their meet, they're not going to be following you because they're going to take hits following you. They can't compartmentalize it like we can,
Yeah.
So
I think the need to sound super smart is part of the issue too.
Facts.
There's tons of great frameworks and systems out there that take, ethereal and intangible things and kind of break them down into easier, more consumable tidbits or bytes.
Yep.
And that's effectively what he's doing. I think the other thing people do too is they'll steal other people's ideas and then try to make them their own. Instead of
100%.
Just saying like, hey, I subscribe to this idea from Zig Ziglar, right? Or, hey, I love this framework from so-and-so. It actually shows more depth of your willingness to learn and grow. And people are more impressed with dang, this guy actually really invests time, or he really reads and studies.
Yep.
You've said it forever. Stop trying to be an expert and everything.
Yeah, and give people credit, man. It's like, dude, you can give somebody else credit. Like David Goggins. Remember David Goggins had this. He said this quote about how when he gets to heaven, God is going to look at him and say, like, here's all the David Goggins you could have been. I heard 7 different entrepreneurs, some big, some small, taking his take on it and being like, you know what I think this is really about? When it comes down to it, I'm going to stand before the creator and he's going to look at me and he's going to show me all that I could have been. And I don't want any regrets. And it's like, you took that from David Goggins. Like, you took it and they're like, this is my definition of heaven. It's like, no, that really wasn't yours at all.
Yeah.
And so the point being is just like you said, you don't have to try to sound smart. Show people rather than you tell them. Like, they're forgiving, dude. People are so forgiving of like, dude, you're on this journey. You're trying to figure this out. Show them, dude. Like, just show them instead of always putting this pressure on you to tell them. So that's my piece today for marketing, man, because the window's opening because people are so tired of it. Their feeds are filled. Their feeds are full of it. They're trying to filter out stuff. They're trying to reset the feeds and turning off platforms. And we're going to be pushing people more to the email and all kinds of things as we continue to change. And it's a great opportunity for you, the entrepreneur, for us as entrepreneurs, to continue to be really clear and humble and honest and not try to be like, I've made it already. It's like, actually, I didn't make it and I haven't made it. And today I'm actually struggling. So I'm going to show you that.
So good.
So anyways, that being said, that's the pod today.
Amen. Good work. Thanks for bringing that content. I love that. That was a little bit different take than your normal marketing mode, but it's always a good reminder for me every time we do these to just go be authentic and real. Make fun of yourself too. That's a great way to break the fourth wall.
Dude, there's a great, I'll leave with this. Seth Godin has a great take on authenticity because some people can say like, I'm just being authentic or I'm being blunt, right? When they're being a jerk. And he says, if you're going to say something and you're doing it in the name of being authentic, it better tie to the change you seek to make in this world. If not, you're not being authentic. You're actually just being a jerk. Like you're just being, you're being blunt and you're like, I'm being authentically me, but you're actually just choosing to be a jerk. Because if you're really authentic, everything you got is trying to serve the outcome, the change that you're trying to make, where you're trying to go with your life. That's authenticity. Even if it means like that comes at your defaming, even if it means you don't get to put someone in their place because it doesn't serve the change you want to make.
That's good. So win on that.
Yeah.
Till next time.
Till next time.